All right, here we are, another SUBCLE episode. Today, we're kind of going into the hardcore scene, I think, a little bit with Jack. I knew you from At No End, and then you went on to do a few other things, but always good stuff, very profound, I would say. Yeah. But no, yeah, Jack, so just tell me what made you start getting into music, and just kind of take us like through the history of like, you know, you being in a band, and then as you came to a Dead Earth right now.
Yeah.
Is that what? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dead Earth, and you know, hold on, I'm gonna take this off.
Yeah. I think we're 6 feet apart.
Yeah,
so
we are definitely.
But no, what made you get into the whole music, that, you know, the hard, you know, because you're a hardcore kind of guy, right?
Yeah, you know, well, here's the thing is that At No End was actually the first hardcore band that I ever played in.
Okay.
I was always into like the thrash metal and stuff.
Okay.
What got me started with music and wanting to be a musician was, you know, I had the privilege of growing up in the 70s. So
Yeah.
I was born in 1970, and
Okay.
at 6 years old, Kiss was my favorite band. So
Right.
that was like 1976, and my uncle, who was 4 years older than me, turned me on to Kiss Alive 1 album.
Okay.
And then you know, also my parents used to listen to a lot of Motown and
Sure.
Sly and the Family Stone, and
And it sounds a lot like my grandma.
yeah, Motown. I'm a huge fan of Motown and you know, funk and
Sure.
the old school.
How could you not? Right. It's
Right.
music. Yeah, it's great.
Especially Motown.
Yeah.
I could listen to Motown and that could get me out of the worst
Sure.
mood
Yeah.
possible. I mean, it just
Well,
it soothes me, man.
They really paid attention to melody and harmony, and
Mhm.
you know, and just the groove and the funk to it, you know, and just, I mean, it's great music. How can you say
Yeah.
I dare someone to say they don't like Motown?
Well, you know, the thing with that too was that Motown sang about something. The lyrics were amazing, and you know, they had something to say.
Right.
And you know, I believe the world needs Berry Gordy now more than it ever
Right.
did before.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
you know, that music has lasted the test of time.
Yeah.
You know, I'm also a big fan of the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, you know, stuff like that. That's what I grew up
Right.
on. And you know, like I said, 8 tracks. So, but in 1976, you know, no, it was like 75, 76. I got turned on to Kiss, and
Yeah.
then you know, I seen the Kiss Alive 1 album cover, and
Right.
I seen the inside jacket, and I was like, wow, man, this is
Right.
really cool. And that was what did it. I always liked Ace Frehley.
Right.
Ace Frehley and Gene Simmons, but Ace
Yeah.
was the man. I
Yeah.
was like, if anything, I want to be Ace Frehley. So, you know, through that time period, you know, 76 through 78,
Right.
you know, me and my buddies would get together, and my mom would actually dress us up like Kiss. And I had a real cool mom. I have
Yeah.
a real cool mom.
Did she do the face paint and everything?
Oh
And
yeah,
was it-
she would do the whole face paint thing,
Yeah.
and then we would take tennis rackets and like you know, fishing lamps
Yeah,
or
yeah.
what have you, you know, and bright lights, and we'd shut all the lights off, and you'd have these lights on us, and we'd turn on Kiss Alive 1, and we took a rosin bag out of my buddies and my dad's you know, bowling
yeah.
bag, and we'd hit it up against the you know, the tennis racket, and it would create this smoke. And it
Oh,
looked really,
nice. Yeah,
really cool
yeah,
with the
yeah.
lights, man. So, you know, I mean, back then we were Kiss, man.
Right.
Like, it wasn't like we were just pretending, like we
Yeah.
were Kiss. And then 1979 hit, and you know, Kiss came out with the Dynasty album. Now you got to understand, back in the 70s, the kids that were into Kiss used to get picked on by the kids who listened to disco.
Okay.
So, you know, Saturday Night Fever was huge.
Was it like you're into cartoons or something? I don't know.
It was like, well, it was like, here was the thing was, you had a rivalry going. If you liked Kiss, the kids that were in the disco picked on the Kiss kids. You know what I mean? And
I would think
vice
it'd be the
versa.
other way around. But
Well,
I don't know.
it went both ways, you know, and so, you know, when the kids that listen to disco were like, you know, what are you gonna do when Kiss writes a disco song? We were like, Kiss will never write a disco song, and then Dynasty came out, and I was like, oh no,
That was made for loving you, right?
Yeah, my world was crushed. Now, mind you, I listened to that album a lot today because I enjoy it, because there's some really good songs on that album.
Yeah.
But you know, right from that time period, you know, '79. My uncle also introduced me to Van Halen 1 and Van Halen 2, and I heard this young kid named Eddie Van Halen, and it blew me away. So, yeah, ever since Kiss, that was when I wanted to play music.
Yeah, for me, you know, I mean, I remember being a kid and not even knowing Kiss. I just saw the image, you know, so I'm a little younger, you know, and I remember really liking it because it was so cool and whatever, you know, they were like... comic book characters, you know.
Well, they were. Well, I mean, they actually had comic books that they brought out, and I had those. I had the Kiss, trading cards. You know, the baseball cards, Kiss, and anything that Kiss had. Kiss Radio. I had all that stuff.
See, now when they got popularized on MTV with like the Lick It Up stuff, and you know, that's kind of when I got more introduced to them.
Right.
You know, so I can't say like Kiss was a huge influence, but they are definitely in there. I mean, they've influenced. I mean, you talk to any of the bands that have influenced me, they all claim Kiss. you know, for sure.
Well, you know, it was funny because getting into that time period of Kiss, that was when I was starting to listen to, you know, like Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, you know, Motley Crue,
me too,
Venom, you know, that was like when the thrash, you know, thrash scene started hitting, and I was also a huge Black Sabbath fan. I mean, Black Sabbath is my all-time favorite band of all time, and the first album I got by Black Sabbath, I went to Peaches and
over there on Pearl and
I actually went to the one over
Southgate.
here and
Southland. Mapletown,
and
so, or not Mapletown, Southgate,
Southgate, Southgate, USA.
That's right,
and I bought Master of Reality, and I put that thing on my turntable, and I was like, wow, and then I was. That was it.
That's one thing I always wish. Like, I wish I had that, because I didn't get that. Black Sabbath wasn't my segue into metal, you know, and I feel like I'm a poser of sorts because that's not the case.
No, you know.
No, but you know what I'm saying. You know, it's like because I recognize them as. I mean, really. I mean, you know, they did start a whole new genre. You know. You know, I mean, Led Zeppelin helped and everything, but Black Sabbath had that darker.
You know, Zeppelin had their part. You know, in taking things to a new level.
Right.
I think one of the guys that never gets any credit when it comes down to metal, and even though he was more blues, but that's where metal came from, was the blues, was Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, sure.
Jimi Hendrix was one of the greatest guitar players I ever heard, man. I mean, I didn't, you know, get a chance to ever see Jimmy, of course, but, you know, Sabbath just took what Hendrix was heading into and just took it into a whole different level, you know, and that's just my opinion, but
Hendrix is unreal, because I mean, you can listen to that stuff now and it's like there's not too many people that sound like him to this day. I usually silence my phone all the time. But you know, and there's really no there's no comparison to Hendrix other than Hendrix,
right?
You know, and it's like, you know, even now, like Led Zeppelin, I mean, there are bands that sound like Led Zeppelin. There's bands that sound like Black Sabbath. You know what I mean?
Only one.
There's really, I mean, there might be. I just, you know, I'm showing my, you know, ignorance, I guess. You know.
No.
You know, but it is weird that I don't hear anything like Jimi Hendrix. And to your point about everything kind of came from blues, you know, it's like I was watching something recently where they were talking about how, you know, it just kind of music has metal in a sense has like just been a progression away from the standard blues, because I mean you listen to like a metal song, it's completely void of any groove or anything. I mean until like the Pantera started kind of reinvesting in that kind of element, you know what I mean? But it just kind of started getting more staccato, more chromatic, more, you know what I mean? Just straightforward, you know, less melody, just abrasive, you know, which is cool because it kind of turned everything, you know, all right, here's a new standard. Now everyone can work with that. You know?
You know, one of the guitar players that one guitar player that's still alive and still has that old, well, he's from England, that still has that British blues sound, because back in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s.
Pull that mic down a little bit. Yeah.
Back in the late 60s, early 70s, those guitar players and those musicians over in England, they knew what they were doing. They took American blues and just ran with it. And Robin Trower is one who still tours. I go see him all the time. He's amazing. He's probably the closest living thing to Jimi Hendrix that you're ever going to get. Yeah. And you know, as far as like when you get into the different subgenres of metal has taken you know, just a tree, man, and just branched off in so many different directions. I mean, and you know, it's like one of the things when we were putting Dead Earth together, was I wanted to take and go back to the basics of where the riff mattered, where the riff actually means something, where it does take it back to the blues and you know, a bit, and it does, you know, the lyrics mean something, you know.
I think that's why I think Master of Puppets is like my Black Sabbath, whatever.
Oh, Master of Puppets,
or whatever.
Amazing.
But that to me epitomized the riff. I mean, wouldn't you agree? I mean,
well, you know, to me, the first few Metallica albums, anything with Cliff Burton on it, was amazing because Cliff was an old school guy. He was into that old, you know, the classic rock stuff and you know, and Motorhead and, you know, things of that nature. That's another band that really needs you know, to be
you have
mentioned.
the connection to Jimi Hendrix there too.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and you know, that's the thing when it, you know, I listen to I still listen to a lot of metal. Like I really like that band Power Trip that's out now, because they went back to the classic style of playing thrash, you know, and there are some really, really good bands out there today.
I think even the original thrash bands went back to thrash. I mean, you know, the last few, you know, Overkill and Death Angel and stuff like that.
Testament too, yeah.
Testament,
amazing.
I mean, for sure. Yeah, they sound more like they did in the '80s than they did, you know, any other time. Now.
Yeah, that was, you know, that was a pretty cool time period to grow up in, because, you know, like I said, growing up in the 70s, going into the 80s, now, you know, is my teenage years, you know. So, you know, when I was 15 years old, I got to see Deep Purple on a Perfect Strangers tour. And I'm a huge Richie Blackmore fan, especially old Rainbow with Dio singing. And, you know, you listen to that stuff, man, I turn it on, and I you know, there's just a certain thing with music that I vibe off the energy of music. And it's just, you know, I could get high off of music without doing a drug or doing any drugs or doing anything, you know. And music is my drug. So that's the best way to put it.
Oh yeah, you know, I've said that before too. It's we were talking a couple times ago on this podcast, whatever. I don't know if it's real life or this podcast I said this, but I mean, I always said that. You know, because I always liked to draw when I was a kid, and And it was like, just finding that focus. And it's like, oh, I felt uncomfortable in this new school that I'm going to, let me just sit here and draw. And I can totally lose myself within it, you know what I mean? But be completely aware,
Yeah.
And it's something like that. And then that eventually moved into music, and you'd find different mediums to do those things,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's definitely therapeutic. Like I've always said, you breathe in through the lungs, you breathe out.
That's right.
Your brain does the same thing. You take in all this information, and then you have to express it out. And the people that don't express it out are probably taking the antidepressants and alcoholics or whatever. And I'm no stranger to drink a beer, I'll tell you that. But you know what I mean. But finding
you
the
need
right
that
balance.
outlet.
Yeah,
and that's that's a very good point, because music has always been my outlet.
Yeah.
Music has always kept me out of trouble. It's always been my go-to whenever times were tough, or
right.
what have you. And I can never let that go. I mean, when I wake up in the morning, first thing I do is I turn on music, and it all depends on what I want to listen to that day. I might want to listen to Bad Company. I might want to listen to hardcore, or I might want to listen to Norwegian black metal, which I'm a huge fan of, or Motown, whatever I feel like that day, I'll turn on, and
the Norwegian black metal, like, are they? Now I don't know much about that. I've heard some stuff, and it's like, I don't know. I need a little bit of, give me a little bit of a hook.
a little bit of a
just
idea
a little bit of a
what.
No, I'm just saying in music in general. It's like, but aren't those guys are like really murderers and stuff though? Right?
Yeah, Norwegian black metal it's like,
or is that just a stigma that it's got?
No,
I don't know.
It's, well, you do have with Norwegian black metal, they're very how can I say it? They stick to their belief.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know, it's weird, because when you listen to Norwegian black metal, for example, like I listen to like Mayhem, and I love Immortal and Abath and things of that nature, and they do sing a lot about like their ancient heritage and how it was taken over by Christianity, and they definitely are not fans.
Definitely like
of
a pagan kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you listen to what they're saying, it's like I get where they're coming from.
Okay.
A lot of stuff.
I get you. So it's not necessarily Viking, but just pagan kind of stuff.
A lot of pagan backed, and they're did they take things to the extreme back, with Euronymous and Varg and stuff like that, and they were young kids, man, and they were a bunch of kids that just took things to a whole different level.
So I don't honestly know the story of all that. Wasn't there like some murders going on with one of the bands? Was it Mayhem?
Yeah, Mayhem. The guitar player Euronymous, who basically started that band, was killed by Varg, who was he had Burzum, and Burzum was just like basically a one-man band, and he signed to Varg's label, and Death Like Silence Records, and so there was kind of some animosity going on there, but Euronymous also was he had the Black Circle, and these guys met in the basement of Helvet, which is his was his record store.
Okay.
And they they went down there, and it was like a little group of guys, man, that were all part of, like one of the guys was an Emperor, one of the guys was some of the guys in Mayhem, some of the guys in this band and that band, and so they Dark Throne, and these guys would get together, and they would plot, things and burned a few churches down. And
so they were revolting against like Christianity and trying to
revolting against Christianity. And that was the thing, was that, you know, according to the book, there was a book that was out, and you know, movie that came out, Lords of Chaos, and you know, these kids, just like I said, man, they just took things to a whole different level because they wanted to be extreme. They wanted to, you know, people to know what they did, and they did. They took it to a whole new extreme, and they
so
you know?
So they were expressing it not only in their art, they were
expressing it for real. So.
That's crazy. I mean, you know, that's crazy. I mean, you know, I would never condone killing anyone, but I mean, how many Christians? I mean, how many people have Christians killed? Like over. You know, how many pagans have they killed?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or burned or whatever.
Trust me, I know exactly where you're coming from on that, because I'm a pagan myself, and it's like, you know, there was some murders that occurred, you know, within that group, and you know, some senseless murders, and you know, that was just, to me, some crazy shit that you know, that was like a little too extreme.
Sure.
You know, the churches.
Well, I mean, you know, I could. No.
Nobody was in the church when they burned them down.
Oh, is that right?
So, yeah,
okay.
they didn't kill nobody.
You know.
But, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I hate to say this, you know, but I mean, it seems like no big change comes without, you know,
some kind
like
of
that, you know? And that's why these. I don't know how we want to go into this, but these riots that were happening recently, and people are like, oh, as long as they're peaceful protests. And when has a peaceful protest ever accomplished anything? You know.
You know, I'll share some stuff with you.
Yeah. Because I did want to go into this, because I didn't you help clean up downtown after?
Yeah. Here's what happened. Here's what happened was. Long time ago, this was back in, I want to say 2005, there was a rally down in Miami, Florida, okay, and it was called the FTAA. It was an FTA against the FTAA, which was the Free Trade Across Americas, which was the expansion of NAFTA, okay, and the WTO was meeting down in Miami to talk about, which was the World Trade Organization, to expand NAFTA, take away more jobs, and you know, I'm a union steelworker downtown, man, and you know, they're not focused on taking away American jobs. They're focused on increasing their revenue. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
and you know, the thing was that we were trying to prevent them from moving any more jobs out of this country.
Yeah.
So there was a rally down in Miami, Florida, and while everybody in America was watching about what was going on with Michael Jackson and him supposedly touching that little boy.
Oh, is that when that happened? Yeah.
This was going on down in Florida. There was a couple 100,000 of us marching.
Yeah.
Okay. And a rally that size is unbelievable. Like,
right.
when I stepped off the bus in Miami, Florida, okay, I swear I was in a different country, like a third world country, because the cops were like military.
Sure.
They had riot gear on, like,
right.
And you know, they had the union had to deputize AFL-CIO members to be the buffer between us and the cops, and it wasn't that we had an issue with the cops. Yeah. We were just there to march.
Sure.
Okay. Now there's a whole other group that comes in that instigates.
Sure.
And they did it the whole week while we were there.
Sure.
And they intermingle with the peaceful protesters.
Absolutely.
Okay. we do have a right in this country to protest.
Sure.
And, so you have extremists that come in and
on both sides, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they try to stir the pot. Those are the ones throwing piss at the cops. Those are the ones.
Do you think they're trying to, or do you think they're just troublemakers? I don't know.
Well, here's the thing: is that they try to create chaos. Okay, they try to.
It's like premeditated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They come in to do this on purpose.
It's organized.
Yeah. Oh, it's well organized.
Okay.
Well organized.
Because I've heard of.
Yeah,
definitely. For
now,
sure, but
one of the things is that when they have a big rally like this, for example, like this FTAA rally down in Miami, Florida, every union member that got off that bus got shirts.
Sure.
Okay, that have our local or had our steel workers on it. That's how we were identified, who we were.
Sure.
And that we were a part of that group. To not be mistaken for this group over here that was
because they've been here before. They know.
Yeah.
They know how this is going to go.
They're professional.
Yeah, right.
Like this group has been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
But see, you have what's going on now. You have an extreme right and an extreme left that are trying to impose their position on things, and what better way to take advantage of getting their point across or doing damage while this was going on. Now there's a lot of people I know that were down at that rally downtown a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was going to go to that, but I had to work that night, and I worked the night before, and by the time I got up, the rally already started.
Sure.
But I have a lot of friends that were down there.
Yeah.
The rally was already done with before the stuff, before shit hit the fan.
I heard the same exact thing.
Yeah, and there was some shit that went down that that people actually seen that this is where I was talking about. There's two extremists, man, and
right.
and they have an agenda as well.
What do you think that agenda was?
Well, you've got one side that wants to totally dismantle government, and they call it a boogaloo. Okay.
Oh, those guys. Yeah. Those are the white supremacists.
Yes, white supremacists on one end.
Yeah.
And then you have another group over on the far left.
Sure.
On the far left that has their agenda.
Sure.
And they intermingle, and they come as allies.
Right.
But you don't know who's an ally and who's not.
Sure. It's very confusing.
And that's where, when you get into the riots and things of that nature,
right.
the problem is that and I'm going to say this because okay,
try not to trigger anyone. Huh?
This is not okay. Antifa is anti-fascist. That's what it means. If you're not anti-fascist, you're not American. Because if you're not anti-fascist, then you might as well go piss on the graves over at Arlington. Them guys that fought in World War II. Okay.
Well, any free-thinking person is anti-fascist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now the thing is that people don't know the players. Okay.
Right.
You have the one set on the far right or the far left, and the one set on the far right. I know who them players are because I've been around them in when we did do the rallies, and I've been at a few rallies.
They're like professional protesters.
They are professional protesters who are there to create chaos.
Right.
Okay. This country.
Because then it completely it completely devalues the whole entire movement.
You see what's going on. Right. People are like, "Oh, it's Black Lives Matter. They're terrorists, and they're this and they're that." And here's the thing. Okay, like I said, and a lot of people are probably not going to like what I say here because I'm a union rep. Okay,
sure.
I work in one of the in a steel mill where I fight for civil rights. I fight for justice every
Sure.
day. I give a voice to the worker who usually doesn't have one anywhere else.
Yeah.
And the prejudice that I see and the sexism and the racism and stuff that I see every
Yeah.
single day in 2020,
Right.
you would never think still goes on, especially up north here. But
Absolutely.
it does.
Yeah.
And people better get their head out of their fucking ass.
Yeah.
Because shit is happening. And you know what? Like, people who... The problem today is that nobody wants to sit down and nobody wants to talk about stuff that is uncomfortable for them.
Right.
You know, they'd rather sweep the shit under the carpet.
Well, or they align themselves with whatever favorite news organization that
Right,
they like,
exactly.
and that's all they think. That's,
Listen, yeah, exactly. And it's like funny because I don't have to watch CNN and I don't have to watch Fox.
Right.
You know what I watch? I watch what the politicians do every day and how they vote. And I'm what?
Sure.
You know, and the thing that baffles me is to see how many people don't pay attention to that, and that's what affects their wallets. That's
Right.
what affects putting food on the table.
Right.
And you know what? I vote for my paycheck, so any
Yeah,
day of
no,
the week,
yeah,
man.
for sure,
You
yeah.
know, but you know the thing is that you know we have a lot of things going on in this country that need to be fixed,
Yeah.
and there's been too much. You know, most of your Americans are middle ground. You know what I mean? They're middle ground. They maybe swing a little bit left or a little bit right, but they're, you know, when you sit and you talk to your friends, and if it does get into a conversation about politics, 9 times out of 10, we're both thinking the same thing. We're just, you know, maybe one's a little more conservative, one's a little more liberal on things. You know,
I would like to say that, you know, when pressed and asked about not the issues that they promote, but just different issues, you know, in general. If you ask certain people, you know, like, you know, does everyone agree on a flat tax? Well, I mean, everybody I talk to pretty much agrees on that. I mean, you know, I met a couple people that had some explanations, but most people agree, you know, no, everyone should be taxed the same percent. You know, it's like, well, no, rich people make more, so they're actually paying more into it. Well, hey, man, you know, that's just how it goes, man. You know what I mean? You're still way better off than the poorest person paying no tax.
Yeah,
you know
right.
what I mean? You know, so, but like, you know, taxes are a necessary thing.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you know, the way I see it is we pay like it, you know, like almost 30% of our income in taxes. I mean, when you take into account like, you know, sales tax and stuff like that, you know, and property tax, and you know, I'm paying more in taxes right now because I own my home. I'm paying more in taxes than anything.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And why can't I get like free health care? You know, it's not even free. I'm paying into a system. Instead of paying an insurance company, why not just pay into a government program that, you know, but then, you know, people say there's no competition and there's whatever, but I mean, there's pros and cons to both sides. But going back to this whole union thing.
I mean, you know what? Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So NAFTA looked great on paper. You signed NAFTA.
I disagree. I don't think it did, but
No.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
NAFTA was supposed to bring a bunch of jobs here. Like,
Sure.
we were supposed to open up the market to where we were making GMs and Fords and Chryslers and all kinds of shit for not only America but Canada and Mexico, and they were going to buy our shit and we were going to buy their stuff, and it
Right.
was supposed to be really good. Well, these corporations found that loophole. Well, hey man, we'll just send our, you know, cheaper labor down in Mexico, close up our plants here, send it down there, you know.
right.
What happened was from 2001 to 2008, okay, in that time period, 2007 is when the market crashed, all right. From that time period, we lost more manufacturing jobs in this country, especially in the state of Ohio, than any other time in the history of this state. You're talking good paying, union jobs, good paying. I mean, they didn't have to be union jobs. Good paying manufacturing jobs that provided insurance.
I had a job where it wasn't a union, and it was great.
Right,
yeah.
and they provided benefits for people, okay, and they provided a good living wage. All right, if you look back in the 50s, okay, when before all this shit started, you had, the family unit was a lot of times was the dad went to work, he made enough money, he had benefits to feed the family, and the mom stayed at home with the kids, and she was the moral compass. Okay, and when you start stripping away that one, where one person is working and now two have to work, now you've stripped away that family unit, okay, and now we're at a point now where we've lost so many manufacturing jobs in this country, okay? And, I mean, jobs, period. Those jobs create taxes for the fire, police, schools, all that shit. And if those taxes go away that come from those paychecks, what do you think's going to happen to your house? Your house taxes. They're going to go up because somebody's got to pay for the
Somebody's
shit.
Somebody's got to do it,
Right. And it's like they never found a way to replace those jobs.
Right.
They never found a way because the answer was supposed to be, we're going to have
more money into.
Well, it was going to be, we're gonna have these white collar jobs, the computer jobs, the Silicon Valley jobs. Where did all them jobs go? Went to India.
Right.
And all the manufacturing jobs went from Mexico to China.
And also there's a lack of talent in this country because of our education system too. So they have to offer visas to people from other countries who have better educational systems that can come in and do those jobs.
Everything suffers.
Yeah.
Everything suffers. And they haven't found a way yet to replace those good paying jobs with something else. I mean, we're supposed to, have all this technology with the what do you call it? Not the windmill. Oh, yeah, the windmills and the energy.
Right.
And where did them jobs go? They're making that shit over in China.
So I want to take it back a little bit to when I called you. Nobody calls anyone. But when I messaged you on the social medias, and I said I don't think there's anybody more Cleveland that epitomizes Cleveland more than you, and I said that from a music standpoint, but I can definitely say that is everywhere because you are a union rep for a steel company in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes,
that's like you might as well be the poster boy for Cleveland, man.
Steel mill,
right? You click all the fucking
heavy metal, everything Cleveland. I appreciate that. That's a heck of a compliment, man. I love this city. I love Cleveland, and I grew up here. I lived here all my life. I grew up in Slavic Village, and I've seen.
That's not far from here.
Yeah, exactly, man. I've seen. I've seen good Cleveland and I've seen bad Cleveland, and you know what? I love her to death, man.
Yeah.
I love my Cleveland Indians and all my friends that I've met throughout the years, and one of the things I do love about Cleveland too is the diversity, and you have so many different cultures here. It kind of reminds me of a little New York.
Sure.
And,
absolutely.
You have a little Italy. You got Chinatown. You've got different cultures here that create a big melting pot and some of the best food in the world.
Sure.
In my opinion.
I agree.
And when you
I'm
go,
hoping to get some chefs and stuff on it too.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. When you go into different, when playing in a band, we get to a lot of times go to different cities and play, and you go into these cities and sometimes you're like, hey, what the fuck is you get a pizza or something, or you sit there and get some spaghetti, and it's like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
What's this, man? We're spoiled here, because we have that diverse culture. We're that's another reason why I love Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can say the only reason that we're spoiled is because, and I think this was where I was going to go with the last thing with the NAFTA thing. It's like, NAFTA looks good on paper or whatever. And then, it's not until like in order, they're really looking for globalization at that point, which I really have no problem with. But it's not until you bring up everybody else, because it's either you're gonna bring up everyone,
it's gotta be
or
fair.
bring down us.
Right. It's got to be fair.
Yeah. And it's just kind of like It's going to be a lot more difficult to bring everyone else up.
That's right.
It's going to be a lot easier to bring us
That's
down,
right. Absolutely. I get it. I totally
Yeah.
agree. And that's the thing. It's like they haven't figured that out.
No.
They haven't figured that out.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with education, empathy.
Yes.
And I think when you were saying, and that's another thing, going back into Cleveland, and it's like, it is a melting pot, and it's, I've always said when I did some work in Chicago, people were like, oh, what was Chicago like? I was like, well, it's like Cleveland, just a lot bigger,
Yeah.
It's like we have everything they have, just it's not as much traffic, not as much craziness, whatever, all that stuff, and it's awesome. Yeah. I mean, I just think that everyone just has to, try to go outside their own self, their id, their ego, if you will, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And just try and, what's it like to be in somebody else's shoes?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
You hit it right on the head. It's called empathy.
Right.
And a lot of people today have no empathy.
Right.
And here's one of the things that really confuses me is the people who sit and cry about taxes or call guys like me names,
Right.
You know,
I've been called a few names.
yeah, you know, you this, you that, because of our empathy and because of how we feel about things, because we don't have a problem helping others.
Are you a libtard? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, I'm a liberal. Absolutely. I don't give a fuck who likes it or not. But anyways, here's my...
I always said I'm a liberal because I want everyone to think for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's my take on shit. It's like my liberal ass, who fought really hard for, the wage I get down at a union steel mill, creates a lot of taxes for the assholes that sit there and call me libtard to live off of, because they collect more fucking welfare than anybody I know up here in the city.
No. And I'll tell you what, for me, when the company I was working with kind of merged with another company that had a union, I was opposed to the union, but I value the union because the company I worked for would not have that standard if it wasn't for union fighting for that standard.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
We do a lot of fighting for a lot of people.
Right.
And the problem is that a lot of these other states and some of these other counties and shit, they don't put as much into the treasure chest as we do. Right. And they take more out of the treasure chest than we do. Wow. And and it's
that's
like
always the way.
Right, and it's it's like, hey man, you're going to sit there and you're going to talk shit about me, and it's my money that you're living off of. Kiss my liberal ass.
Sure. No, it's always the people that are working harder that are, people say, there's people that think that they're in this tax bracket that's paying for everyone.
Right.
And they're not. I mean, they are, but then they also defend the people making more than them. Yeah. Because they feel like one day they're going to, but the system's rigged. You're never going to be like the people calling the shots.
Right.
They're going to continue to not pay anything, take your money and give it to people that are less fortunate than you.
Yeah.
So now the people that are getting your money, you're pissed at because they're less fortunate, but why don't these fucking guys over here pay it, and then you won't be pissed, but still you defend them though.
Here's the thing: is that what makes me angry is not so much helping someone. I'll help anybody out. You know what I mean? I don't have a problem with that, and I would never want to see anybody starve. You know, I would never want to see anybody go hungry, especially in this country. We shouldn't have one person in this country starving.
Right.
Period. My issue is the ones that sit there and like to get on social media, call people like me names, and then talk shit about maybe we ought to shoot all the fucking liberals and Democrats. It's like, don't think that we don't have fucking guns either, but I'm not gonna stoop down to that level.
I would like to say, though, anytime anybody says, here we are getting into political. We're trying to talk about you in Cleveland.
We'll talk more Cleveland. I'm fine with that.
But anybody that says, "Oh, screw the liberals," or if I turn on a news channel and they say, "Oh, all the liberals are doing this and the liberals are doing that," or if I turn on another thing and they say the Republicans are doing it, the conservatives are doing this, it's like, it's like ultimately you don't matter because you are smarter enough. You know that it takes a union of the two minds to do this, but you're specifically separating people based on red and blue.
You have to have both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
It's the way democracy works. You have to have opposing views.
And there are more than two.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But you know what I mean? Like, that's how you get things done. And the two have to sit down and they have to, come up with a way to solve problems. Yeah. And the problem is that nobody wants to sit down and solve problems. Right. They just want to create more problems, and And this is why this country is just being torn apart.
But it's all a distraction. It's all to the benefit of the people that are running it. Like everyone, the people on the Reds team or whatever, always say. And trust me, I have a lot of bad shit to say about the people on the blue team too. But
absolutely, me too.
But the people on the red team always kind of seem to think like, hey, these poor people, they're on welfare, they're milking the system, whatever. They don't make the rules.
That's right.
The people above you make the rules.
That's right.
People that you're defending are making these rules to take your money and give it to them.
That's right. Exactly.
But yet you don't want to tax them more. You want everything to be status quo, or do you want people to die and suffer and have a big poverty? You can always judge a nation by how they treat their poor, and there's always going to be poor. Yeah. There's always going to be lazy people. There's always going to be people.
You're going to have all.
You just
got to
take care of it.
That's
whatever.
Right.
You have to be a better person and take care of it. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
No.
Is it crazy?
It is. It is. But anyways.
No, but tell me, I want to hear about Dead Earth because I am really not familiar with that project, honestly.
Well, Dead Earth, after Hemi Devils split up back in 2017.
Well, let's go ahead and tell me about the Hemi Devils.
The Hemi Devils, okay. So, when I was in Atno-N, I had this idea of putting together a band that mixed rockabilly with heavy metal.
Okay.
And
was that like a hell yeah kind of like? Would you?
No, it would have been more like if you took Reverend Horton Heat and mixed it with just heavy metal, heavy metal guitars and stuff, and so I wanted something that was heavy, and I took, I was talking to our drummer in Atno-N at the time, Kenny Easterly, and I was like, hey man, what if I was at his shop and we were working on my 68 Camaro, and I was like, hey man, what if we took and formed a band and mixed old school rock and roll with heavy metal, just beefed it up. He's like, yeah man, it'd be a cool idea, so we actually started this project and we put it together. There was 3 female singers, myself as the singer. This thing was supposed to be this huge I had like this whole theatrical thing in mind. It was kind of like if you took Trans-Siberian Orchestra and made it totally evil,
Nice.
you know. And every song was, now mind you, I don't even believe in the devil or God because I'm pagan,
Right.
and into witchcraft. But in order for people to understand where I was coming from, I have to. I have to use some kind of figure,
poetic device, or whatever. Yeah.
So every song that I wrote was about alcohol or drugs and the devil and actually it was more booze, the devil, hot rods, and pinup girls.
Sure.
Okay, all my vices. Right?
Yeah.
And it was put to a story form. That the guys in a car club called Hemi Devils, they inherited a Christine from the movie Christine, and they were going down Route 666, and they were thirsty, and they met the devil at the crossroads, and they were going to trade their souls for 3 6-packs of Pabst Blue Ribbon. They took the beer, told the devil to go fuck himself, and every song was basically a story of mine. It was like my lead in a story form of when I was struggling with alcohol and drugs.
Right.
And so that's what the Hemi Devils was about. And we got two CDs out, Trilogy of 6 Volume 1, Volume 2, and Trilogy of 6 Volume 3 it didn't happen because, and it was 6 songs on each CD. Okay. So there was a 6-song EP, so there's going to be 3 trilogies, so 666. So 6 times 6 times 6 equals 216, which is the area code of Cleveland.
Yeah.
So so that was
6 cubed.
Yeah, 6 cubed. And then so after Hemi Devils broke up, then I was like, I kind of want to go back into playing metal again, something that kind of took the classic Sabbath sound, classic Judas Priest sound.
Right.
Just took the classic metal sound where the riff mattered. And I just, I was driving down the road, and I it was like right like in March. So when you see all that shit on the side of the road that people throw out their fucking cars, because they like to be pigs instead of throwing the shit in a garbage can. I see all the shit on the side of the road, and I'm like, fucking, this is like fucking dead earth, man, and I was like, that's a cool fucking name for a band. We named the band that. I went through a lot of musicians coming in, trying out for the band and stuff like that, and I finally started, getting guys that were buying what I was selling, as far as like, hey man, this is what we want, man. We want to go back.
It's not an easy thing to do, man.
No, it isn't, man. Because you have, that's the thing, is that a lot of times, and this is what musicians sometimes don't understand, like, that, like, for example, there was people that tried out for the band, and it wasn't anything personal about the way they played or the way they, or anything. They were amazing musicians. Sure. But it was just their style didn't fit what I was looking for. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. And
you also probably do get a lot of crappy people, though, because I remember trying singers out for our band a long time ago. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, you get these guys. It was like, and then American Idol came out. I was like, that's exactly how it is.
Oh yeah. Listen, man, there was times where I left the practice spot when when I was putting together this band, where I wanted to put my fucking head through a wall and just give it up all together, because I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm never gonna find anybody that's gonna, want to play this shit. Right. And then when you do say, hey man, the style doesn't quite mesh, or it's just not working out. Sure. Then they want to go on social media, call me fucking asshole, call me this, call me that, and it's like, go fuck yourself, dude. Like, and that happens. It's gonna happen.
It's that whole aspect has changed. Back in the day before the social media thing, we're old enough to know that.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Right.
There's some people that aren't, and and probably nobody watching this and or listening to this, you know. Back then it was like whatever, it might have been forgotten, but now there's avenues where it's like, wait, or you might have heard, hey, this guy was talking about you saying this and this and that.
Oh yeah.
But now it's like immediate, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it's social media is, you know.
Well, let's get back into. We can do social media.
Yeah. Okay, so we're back into the music. So
you're trying out these guys.
Yeah. So we tried out these guys, and then finally, we had a good lineup of you know, guys that came in, and we gelled. We wrote the first album, which was a 6-song EP, and we recorded this 6-song EP like just a couple months from when we got together. I mean, we were writing like you wouldn't believe, and so we went into the studio, recorded the 6-song EP, and then at the winter after it came out, you know, we did some shows and stuff like that during the summer after it came out, of course, but that winter we focused on writing 7 more songs to add to the 6, and we sold out of the EP really fast, so
nice.
We said, you know what, we're not going to release any more of the EP Pollution. That was the name of the Dead Earth Pollution. It's an EP. But we said, you know what, instead of taking it and releasing any more of those, we're just going to take those 6 songs and put it on the full length.
Okay.
You know? So we did. We added them to the full length. And we, you know, had 7 more songs. So, yeah, we had 13 tracks on the Truth Hammer CD. Yeah. And the cool thing was that the way it was recorded and the way it was mixed was at Noah's Buchanan studio.
I was going to ask where you recorded.
Noah is amazing, man.
He's come up a few times on this.
Oh, I love Noah, man. So Noah was able to take, and he ran, I want to say we recorded it in digital and then mixed it down in analog.
Okay.
So it gave it that old sound that we were looking for, you know. And the album cover really created a lot of problems because we were having a bit of an issue with one of the members and his girlfriend, and it, you know, his girlfriend wanted to take the photos and shit, but wanted to charge us like an enormous amount of fucking money. So I said, why don't we just make the fucking album cover ourselves? Like, I got some really cool ideas, you know.
Oh, boy.
Took us an hour. We went to the place I told him, and we went and took some photographs, and we took the photo that we found that we all liked. Yeah. And we just kind of ran it through filters, man, amongst each other. Sure. And basically it came out what it was, and it's cool because it's a little tribute to Black Sabbath, the first album, and it's very eerie like the first album, but the cool thing is that the picture was taken down at the old Level 5 practice spot. Okay. Level 5 practice spot. Yeah. And it was taken on the tracks, and behind me is the blast furnaces from the steel mill. Yeah. And it just, you know, and the leaves were all dead and shit like that. And we added these filters. It looked like something that you'd pull out of like old 70s, late 60s, like, you know, and that was the album cover. Nice. You know, but yeah, man, I mean, after that album was released, like I said, when that album was when we were recording.
When was that?
That was back 2019. Okay.
Oh, that's
the last year. Right. So the issues that we were starting to have with a couple members and the couple members that are still in the band now was getting worse and worse. And so we kind of had to let the other 2 members go. Okay. And you know, we continued on, and the new members who have joined the band have actually made the band that way better.
Sure.
And the style we've gone is we've kind of touched more into the we write songs that don't sound the same. Like we don't want this song sounding like anything off of that song, and we've taken all our influences and threw them into a mixing pot.
So is this like more traditional thrash, or?
It's traditional thrash, traditional metal, traditional hard rock.
So when we were talking earlier about all the different genres of metal, you basically did it with this band.
Yes. Everything in there, even hardcore stuff, even hardcore songs.
Nice. That's cool, man. You guys do videos or anything? Or?
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
Yeah.
We have a YouTube channel. We have our our website, which is the Facebook page, Dead Earth.
Yeah.
And we also have a website too that you can also go on. But we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on Google Music, Google Play, all that stuff.
So I believe I've said this before too, but one of the things with doing this is just to get exposure for people, like doing things, and I'm amazed that every time, like a lot of times, not every time, a lot of times I go see a band play, like, are you on Spotify or this and that, or bands that have been but are no longer since the whole, internet, whatever, but they've never taken their product. I have cassette tapes of local bands.
Oh yeah.
That were actually pretty popular, but they're still not on digital media at all. And it's like I kind of want to like put it up on there. I don't want to take any credit. You know what I mean? Just so it's there. I
know what you mean, man. I cassette tapes. I had so many demos and things of that nature. As a matter of fact,
but even CDs though. I even have CDs of people that aren't on. You know what I mean? But cassette tapes.
Oh yeah. That's how I found out who Alice in Chains were. My buddy moved to Seattle when I graduated high school in '88. He moved to Seattle and he sent me a demo tape like I don't know, like a year later. And he's like, check this band out. And they lived down the street from him, and from where they practiced, that's where he lived. And he sent me a cassette tape. It was Alice in Chains, and I was like, it had like We Die Young on it, and I forget what else was on it, but. I was like, wow, man, this is really good stuff, man. I like these guys, and I knew who fuck Alice in Chains was before anybody did here in Cleveland. So,
well, the first time I saw Alice in Chains was they opened up for the what was it? It was the Clash of the Titans tour.
I was there.
Yeah, with Testament, Slayer, and Megadeth.
It was
Anthrax.
It was
Megadeth and Slayer.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
the new Titans on the block were Testament, Sepultura, whatever.
And that was the night. It was at the old Coliseum.
Yep.
Lane was going to kick the shit out of somebody.
Yeah. They were getting booed.
And then they tore the fucking first 12 rows out of the floor after Megadeth was done, before Slayer came on, and that was the first time I ever had floor seats within the first 10 fucking rows, and they tore them out, and then you just seen them rows of seats come flying down onto the floor. Remember that? It was chaos, but it was cool. And I do remember the signs on the Coliseum that said, "Slayer dudes, please do not trash this arena. We'd like to play here again."
That's cool, man. Well, I mean, they didn't have to worry about that because the Coliseum's no longer there. I don't even think it was long after that, though, that it was.
Yeah, it was a couple years later, man. Yeah. The last show I seen there was it was Biohazard, Sepultura, and Pantera.
Oh wow, yeah.
And but yeah, I've seen some really cool concerts in my time.
Oh yeah,
really cool concerts.
What? I know it's hard to pick the favorite, but what comes to mind is one of the better ones right now. What do you think?
Man, listen, I've seen everybody from.
I know it's so hard. Yeah.
From
the fact that I just asked that question.
Yeah, from Iron Maiden to Deep Purple to Frankie Valli to Mayhem to.
There's probably some that you're not even remembering right now. You know what I mean?
One of the best live bands that always blows me away every time I see them is a couple. Is Judas Priest, Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
those two bands right there. But I would have to say one of the coolest concerts I've ever seen. And I love Slayer. Slayer is one of my favorites. I've seen them so many goddamn times.
Yeah, I was gonna say I Slayer blows me away.
Yeah. The one show that probably had one of the best lineups was like the 05 Ozfest that was here. That had the headliners were it was Slayer.
Okay.
It went Slayer, Judas Priest, and Black Sabbath.
Okay.
The original lineup, Black Sabbath.
I think I was there.
And everybody played that day. Like Slipknot was on the bill, and Lamb of God, and
well, the Ozfest back in the day, that was
that was
the thing.
That was the shit, man. But man, I've seen so many great bands and so many great musicians that.
It really is difficult, I mean, but you answered the question. I just said, think of them right now, man.
You're
gonna go home and think, oh,
when
man,
I go home, I'll be like, you know what, it was this fucking concert. But
I mean, Brian Setzer. I mean, how do you say Tool? All these bands. It's
going and watching like Robin Trower play guitar. Man, like I sit there and watch it.
What kind of place does he usually play at? Like,
usually Northfield. I've seen him the last few times at Northfield.
Okay.
Northfield
Do they
Park.
still have that going on, even though it's MGM now? Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, everything with this COVID thing,
Yeah, everything's kind of up in the air right now.
But so what are you doing with? Aren't you playing a show with Dead Earth or something?
Yeah, we're playing a couple shows. One July 18th at the Buzzbin with
Is
Dead
that
Earth.
Akron? Is that?
That's in Canton.
Canton.
That's a really cool club.
I've never been there.
Love that place. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So we're playing at the Buzzbin on July 18th, and then we're playing August 15th at the Lakewood Avenue Tap House with
Lakewood Avenue Tap House. What is that?
That's a cool place.
Wait, is it right over there by La Plaza or something? What?
It's down Detroit.
Oh, it's Detroit.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's not Lakewood Avenue. Oh, Lakewood Avenue, not Lakewood Heights Boulevard.
No. This is it's called Avenue Tap House.
Okay.
It's on Detroit Avenue.
Okay. I gotcha.
It's down
Oh,
a
it's
ways.
I gotcha.
Okay. It's in Lakewood, but this place is I never even thought that this place existed because you walk into the place.
When did it open?
You got the big bar. It's been there for a while.
Yeah.
But they started doing shows the last year or two.
Okay.
You go in the back, the room is huge. The stage is huge. Like
a Winchester kind of thing? Or?
This is bigger than Winchester.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's a big venue.
Yeah.
So that night it's going to be Rochambeau, which is Kenny Easterly's band that he has with the guys from Bittersweet Revenge, which is another great Cleveland band.
Yeah.
Dead Earth is going to play, and we have Bonesaw from Mansfield. That's also on the bill.
Okay.
We have Bessemer Saints, which is Tom Packard, who was in At No End, and Terry Johnson from Aletheia.
Okay.
They have a band together with some guys, very good band, and then headlining that show is going to be At No End.
Nice.
So you heard it here first, man.
Oh wow! So it's like you got the dual. Well, are there other guys that play in two bands there?
Yeah. Well, Kenny's in Rochambeau, and he's the drummer in At No End.
Okay.
Tommy's the guitar player in At No End, and is playing Bessemer
So it's like
Saints.
a whole incestuous kind of.
Yeah, kind of. Well, we I made those guys. Well, I didn't make anybody do anything, but I asked them, hey man, this was like a year ago. Hey, for my 50th birthday.
50.
Yeah. I'd really like to play a set of At No End stuff because I miss it. You know what I mean? I miss playing the hardcore. And so the time was right.
That's cool.
We said, hey man, let's let's get together. We
awesome.
rehearsed the songs, and it's funny because we rehearsed it, and it's like we never fucking
it
stopped.
becomes embedded after
Yeah,
a while,
exactly.
you know?
It's just part of your DNA, man.
Well, that's cool, man. It's nice to, because I just had a couple other people in bands, and it's like nobody's really planned anything yet, but things are kind of still opening up, and hopefully this second wave doesn't come in and shut everything down.
Right? Yeah. I mean, we gotta see what goes on with that too, and
but,
you know. So right now, that's what's in the work.
Right.
Well, those are set dates, but all subject to change depending on what goes on with the COVID-19 stuff. So.
Yeah. We kind of got off of it earlier. I kind of wanted to know, like, did you ever go down and clean up after the riots?
Well, here was the thing: was that I was going down to clean up.
Yeah.
And I was working the night before, so I was working night turns, and I was going to stay up. I work all night, working 10 at night till 5 or 6 in the morning.
Oh, that's your schedule?
I'm at swing turns down there.
I gotcha.
So I was gonna go grab, a broom and all kinds of shit from my house and head down there.
Yeah.
I was organizing to get it together. Well, what happened was, I heard the mayor and I heard the police chief say, "We don't want nobody down here."
Right.
So I went with that, and then some of the people that I did organize were down there cleaning.
Oh,
and I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Like, practice what you preach, man.
Yeah, well, I called them up, and I was like, man, I really apologize, man. I want to be down there. And they were like, don't worry about it because, they're kicking us all out of here by noon anyways.
Yeah,
and they were only down there for a few hours.
Yeah. Yeah, so. I didn't think they would let too many people down there.
It was very, very chaotic, and shit was.
It's just crazy that after the way it seems like all this stuff's planned. You know what I mean? It's like as soon as this happens, then this crazy thing. But I mean, it could be a product of just a bunch of people sitting in their houses for a few months and then just like whatever. Well, but like you said, there are those organized groups that come in, and I just wanted to say because we kind of got off of it earlier because I lost my train of thought, but. I heard people said, it was fine, and then all of a sudden this group, and it was like mostly young white kids.
Yeah.
They came in and just started fucking shit up.
Yeah.
Like
exactly.
I don't know. I don't know. It's crazy.
Well, no,
but now it looks bad because it's like, Black Lives Matter.
The thing was too is that a lot of them people that did get arrested for destroying shit were out on bail like real quick, and they gave. They gave fake Cleveland addresses too, and they got arrested.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot. They're well organized. As a matter of fact, their buses were parked down by the mill.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. I've heard
because they were going down to. They were actually heading back down to Steelyard Commons where the buses were parked.
Right.
And I was worried because I'm the union rep also for that whole steel mill behind. Steelyard Commons, and right now everybody in that area of the steel mill is on layoff.
Right.
And my concern was that they would, break through the fence and get into that mill, and man, that would be real bad because like things down there. It's like, dude, you're talking about like 285 tons of molten metal at 3,000 degrees.
Yeah.
You could get killed down there real quick.
Sure.
Even if a mill's idled, and hot idled, there's still furnaces that are fired up. And this is just I was listening, and that's why I heard where they were heading, and I was a little concerned about that.
Yeah.
But the thing is that Cleveland was not ready, and they should have been ready after they seen what happened in Columbus.
Well, this whole pandemic thing, the whole country wasn't ready.
Yeah.
What you do is you do a lot of testing, and then you quarantine the people.
Yeah.
That whatever. I mean, this is back on the pandemic thing. But this is all kind of together.
Yeah.
And then you quarantine the people that are sick. from the beginning they were like, oh, we don't need to test. And I'm like, what? I don't understand this. You know,
right.
like it didn't make sense to me. You know, and then after they had to test, and they were like, oh, we have to test.
Yeah, I think honestly, you know, like we talked about earlier, I think that I already had this back in January.
Yeah,
I think it was here a little bit longer than what people think it was. You know,
I come in contact with a lot of people in the news that have had it, you know, at my job, and definitely in January, it went around where I was working for sure.
Yeah, and it was horrible.
Yeah,
it was horrible.
I said it was like the worst cold I ever had. It wasn't as bad as the flu. Like, I mean, I was just drained and coughing a lot, you know?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, it's like a really bad cold. No, I'm not sure. I'm not sure for sure. I never got tested.
Me neither.
I'm not sure.
I'm not
but
sure,
it was the worst cold I ever had.
Yeah, but when I look at all the symptoms and what I had,
right,
and you know,
you even went to the hospital and everything, and then
I went to get checked out, and they gave me antibiotics and this little yellow pill, and which was supposed to be the most potent shit that they could give you. And didn't do nothing. I had a cough for a month after that, and it was awful.
Yeah, I remember mine lingered quite a bit, and like I said, I've just never experienced anything like that. If it wasn't the coronavirus, it was definitely the worst cold I ever had.
Yeah, right. It wasn't coronavirus. It sure the hell was nasty, and it was terrible. And you know, whatever I had was enough to, I mean, I almost, you know, my wife was ready to take me to the emergency room because I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like having some conditions that I have, you know, I'm like, how can I say it? It supposedly hits people that have like high blood pressure and diabetes really bad.
Right.
And so, yeah, it knocked the living shit out of me, man.
Yeah.
I even played a fucking show.
Did you?
Yeah, well, here was the thing. We were playing a show with this band Black Sabbath from L.A., and it was at Beachland Ballroom. Yeah. And, you know, I don't know how the fuck I even did that show, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that you say that because I just remember that, too, and I wonder how many people I spread this thing to. But I remember we played, I didn't even want to play the show. We played opening up for Studbull's Disco Biscuit at the Winchester. They did their every 10-year anniversary thing, but it was for Tripp's daughter's birthday and everything. That was a great show. Were you there?
I wasn't there, but you guys were, I remember you guys were all playing.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I had every intention on making it to that show. But
it was a great turnout. It was really good. But I was sick. That's when I was sick. That was in I think it was January sometime. And I just remember just feeling like, oh, my God.
That whole month of January, I was out of commission.
Yeah.
I caught it right after New Year's, and I was sick all the way up until February.
Yeah.
And trust me, if I didn't go anywhere. I stayed at home. Like, I was, because... yeah, it fucked me up. So whatever it was, kicked my ass.
Right.
So
no, yeah, I agree. I'm the same way. Yeah, it might not be it, but it was definitely the worst cold. I did want to, just because one of my early majors in college was philosophy. I was always into religion. I had a lot of anxiety attacks when I was like younger, and it wasn't until like I kind of, you know, took responsibility for my own actions, and just, it's like, I stopped believing in God, you know, I stopped believing in the Catholic ways, and I'll tell you what, I just felt the peace just enter me, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm like saying anything bad. If you're like a Catholic or a Christian or something like that, and you find peace within that, that's cool. You know what I mean? Absolutely. That's totally cool. But I just noticed that when I let go of that, and I was like, oh, and I was open to like different ways to think, you know?
Yep.
And one of those is, so I almost don't even subscribe to any kind of religion. That's why when you were saying you're a pagan, I kind of want to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
You know? Well, because my roommate is actually Wiccan.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's big into it. I mean, it makes a lot more sense to me than Christianity because it's like real things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but
well, you know, I grew up Roman Catholic my
Yeah.
whole life. My mom full-blooded Italian,
Yeah.
So, went through Catholic school, things of that nature. And when I was in high school, one of the coolest classes I took in high school was theology class.
Yeah.
Okay, and you learned the Old Testament, the Old Testament in 9th grade, the New Testament in 10th grade,
Yeah.
and then 11th and 12th grade you studied world religions.
Yeah.
Okay, that was really cool. Now, what I liked about it was you learned about all kinds of different belief systems.
Yeah.
Okay, and what they were about. Okay,
And this was a Catholic school.
this was Catholic
Okay,
school.
sure.
I was actually introduced to witchcraft by a nun because I was very drawn to it. It's
Sure.
like, it's funny because
I mean, it didn't hurt that you were listening to all that heavy metal.
well, yeah, I always, I did like the pentagrams and all that shit, but yeah, I mean, like, I was drawn to it, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and it's funny because if you ever ask anybody that's in witchcraft or pagan or Wiccan, they say, you don't find it finds you.
Sure.
And so yeah, I was always drawn to it. I did term papers on it and stuff like that, and but I had to hide it from my mom anytime I had any books or anything like that.
Sure.
And my whole thing is whatever your belief system is, that's fine, as long as you're a good person and it's it helps you be a better person.
Sure.
But the shit that's dangerous is the extremism, when you have religion mixing with politics,
Right.
because that's when you have problems.
Sure.
And
We have a lot of that going on these days.
we have
right?
way too much of that shit going on. And with witchcraft, it was funny because 10 years ago I got sober. I got out the drugs and alcohol, and they always say that one of the things when you get sober is to find a higher power.
Sure.
So my higher power for a long time was Lemmy from Motorhead, because I was like,
Well,
nothing will kill Lemmy.
I think he's still that higher power for a lot of people.
He sure is. So, I don't know. It was I always had the witchcraft and the paganism, and the witchcraft in the back of my mind.
Sure.
And back a long time ago, you're always afraid to come out and say that you were into that kind of stuff.
Well, it sounds silly,
right?
And
And
to some levels,
right, and people are very judgmental.
Absolutely.
But what they don't understand is that Hollywood has made witchcraft look. I mean, they've taken witchcraft.
Well, Christianity has made.
Christianity and using
Well,
Hollywood.
they demonized it.
Right,
Yeah.
and they demonized it. And the thing is that with witchcraft, your witch means wise one.
Sure.
And it's being responsible for your actions.
Mhm.
It's owning up to your bullshit.
Right.
Okay, and it's also energy driven.
Yeah.
Everything is energy driven. The reason why
You're talking to us. I'm studying science right
right.
now.
The
Everything
reason,
is energy, yeah.
I mean, what's one of the reasons why witches or pagans pray to the moon? What is your body mostly made up of?
Yeah.
Water, and
yeah.
and the moon controls the tides.
The tides, yeah, for sure.
So witchcraft, in many ways, is very much in tune with the earth and with
Sure.
things that are going on around, and
Yeah.
and it's a lot of it's energy based, and it's controlling that energy and not putting out negative energy, because there's way too much of it now. And witchcraft is unbelievable. I love it.
I've said that too. It's it's like your body is a God, I feel like I'm going to quote a 311 song now, but you're like a transistor. They wrote a song about it, you know.
Absolutely.
And it's like, it's like whether or not you want to produce negative or positive energy.
Yes.
You know, it's like you're kind of taking in this energy, and you're processing it.
Yes.
You know, and how you process it determines how your health, your relationships, your everything is going to go, you know. So if you process it into a negative energy, or if you just don't process it in anything, I think it has a tendency to go negative.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it has to be developed, you know, with artistic expression and stuff like that, you know, whatever. I think a lot of people don't realize that. And yes, absolutely, everything is energy flowing.
Yeah.
But I mean, so are you casting spells or doing any of that stuff? Or
if I do any ritual work or spell work, as we call it, it's usually to, do away with any negative energy that tries to enter into my realm, or you never in my in my belief system. I don't, I'm all about harm none, you know, but at the same time, take no shit off of nobody. You know what I mean? And
well, I think that's a very pagan.
Yeah, and it's like do we pray for people? Absolutely. You pray for the people that are struggling.
Yeah.
You pray for people that are I pray for this country every fucking day, to my goddess, and I pray to a goddess. I pray for the world, right?
Right, yeah.
And it's like, you try to put positive intentions out into the world.
Yeah.
And it's positive energy. And it's like, one of the things too, one of the most misconstrued symbols in modern times is the pentagram or the pentacle. The star, the star with the circle around it, and it's like it's the elements, the earth, air, water, fire.
Thank you for explaining that, because this is on a podcast, not just on video.
Yeah.
And I often forget that, and I go back and listen to some of these things, and I'm saying something, I'm like, no, well, people that are listening. But yes, because you were holding up the.
yeah, exactly. The pentacle is, the up is the spirit. The point up is the spirit, and then you have the earth, air, water, fire, the elements, and the circle is the god or the goddess that protects us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So when you invert it, that's just like something made up that somebody does, or whatever,
That's well, like I said, Satanism does their thing. Satanists are not necessarily,
Well, I mean,
they have their own.
It
their
just
own
doesn't.
thing.
Well, but Satanist is a product of Christianity, whereas paganism is its own thing.
Yeah. Well, they basically, it's Satanism is a whole different. That's a whole different thing. I don't like me personally. I have no problem with Satanists. You know what I mean? Because their belief system is a little bit. There's a lot of elements that are tied in, but Satan is a man-made. In my belief, is a man-made fucking
I agree.
entity.
Well, it comes from Christian.
Right, it comes from Christianity, and it's like the thing with that is they live through fear.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't fear shit. I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't fear you. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And
well, you shouldn't.
Right.
We are of the earth, and
exactly. And it's like I have no fear.
Yeah.
I I don't let some fucking man-made shit tell me how to live.
And that really presses on something that I don't think I ever actually explained, because I've told that story about why I don't believe in Christianity and Catholicism, and my anxiety attacks went away. But it is because of this inevitable fear that they instill in you constantly, and it's like once I just, because when I was praying at night, I would say, I'd be praying for things. I didn't have a good childhood, growing up, but I realized one day that I'm like, who am I talking to, and then I realized I'm talking to myself, and I'm not answering.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like, why is nobody answering me? I have to answer the call. And that's when I started taking responsibility for my own actions, not blaming other people.
Yes.
Even if somebody does cause me harm, I'm thinking, well, what did I do to put myself in that situation?
Right.
You know what I mean? What did I do wrong?
Well,
that's the only thing you can control.
Here's a good way to put it. Like, for example, and this is no bag on Christianity at all, but once a week, people go to confession.
Yeah.
All right, or they go to church. And they come out of confessional booth, and what the fuck are they doing? Kicking a fucking dog, treating people like shit because they know they could go back a week later, and their sins are forgiven. It doesn't really change anything with them because they could say, hey, fuck it, I could go out be an asshole today, and I'll go back next week, and then, hey, God will forgive me. I could still be an asshole.
Right.
Okay? When you're working with your higher power, okay, whatever it may be, you work with that higher power to help you be a better person.
Right.
You're not worshiping that entity.
Right.
You're asking it for guidance and help.
Sure.
Okay? That's the difference between spirituality and religion. Okay?
Right.
Spirituality is one who's working on themselves on a daily basis to be a better person. Okay? Than compared to those who are driven by fear and driven by, hey, fuck it, I could get away with whatever the fuck I want, treating people like shit because you know what? Hey, fuck it, I'll be forgiven.
I can ask for forgiveness.
Hey, I'll ask for forgiveness next week. I'll be okay. Say 5 fucking Hail Marys and 2 fucking Our Fathers, and you could go beat the fuck out your fucking friend when you walk out of the confessional.
I always thought that was silly. I always thought it was strange telling some stranger, all this personal stuff in my life when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's creepy and strange, especially when you find out that these guys are all like, not all of them, but it seems like a large majority, a larger percentage. I got to watch what I say because my things get misconstrued sometimes. A larger percentage than what you would think of priests are molesting, children. You know what I mean?
You know what's fucked up is that the people that sit and preach Jesus, okay, if Jesus were alive today, he'd be a liberal union fucking carpenter that would get hung by the same motherfuckers that sit there and preach about him.
Sure. I had somebody recently, I got into this discussion, and they were talking about how I was like, well, anger's not whatever, and they're like, even Jesus turned over the money changers, whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, and these are, the red team, on this time too, and I was like, well, he was basically saying the banks. He was going against the banks and the Wall Street.
Yeah, that's what he was doing.
That's what it was, and the fact that they still don't get that lesson, it's so weird.
Here's the funny thing about the Bible. Yeah. Okay. The Bible has some amazing stories in it. Okay. The parables and Proverbs. Yeah. There's good orderly direction in that book. And if Jesus, whether he was a real man or not, had a good story to tell and told great stories. The problem is that how people interpret the Bible. Yeah. And here's what I see with humans. We're all fucked up. Okay, we're barbaric. And the thing is
Still have some evolution to do.
Right, exactly. We've taken and this is not just the Bible, it's other books. We've taken what we want to know about it or what we could take from it and say, what pleases me or appeases me and fuck the rest.
Right.
and that's why we're not going anywhere.
Well, you're cherry picking.
You're cherry picking the shit, and it's like that's not how it fucking works, man.
You either believe in it or you don't.
Right, you either believe in it or you don't.
Because I'll tell you what, if you do believe in it, you will be an empathetic, compassionate, good person.
Yeah.
Well, in the New Testament, the Old Testament, you're probably
they were killing a lot of people in that book.
but
yeah, if you followed,
but the teachings of Jesus, I tell people I'm more Christian than most Christians, just because I believe everything he said was great. But now here's something different. Maybe he's just I've thought of here's my personal conspiracy theory on this.
Right on.
They use him as propagation to make the weak and the poor content being weak and poor, so they don't try harder. Because the only these politicians that are picking the red and the blue teams that are telling everyone how to think, and they do tell people how to think, because you talk to anybody that's a Democrat, you can guess every freaking stance they're going to take. Somebody that's a Republican, you can guess. You can guess it.
Yeah.
I mean, without fail, and tell me that's not brainwashing.
The funny thing is on that, and I don't mean to cut you off, but the last true president that we had was for the people was John F. Kennedy, and
that's
killed
what
him.
they say. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But when was the last time we had a president that was actually for the people? The people haven't ran shit in a long time.
And I don't even think this country even started by that.
Right.
It was just a bunch of guys that didn't want to pay taxes to the Queen.
Right. We need a party for the people.
Yeah.
And we don't have that.
No. Well, now you sound like a socialist. What are you, a commie, whatever, whatever?
I get that shit too, man. I'm in a union, so of course the first thing, socialist fucking commie bastard, Even though I'm fighting, for rights,
right?
But I'm a commie, whatever the fuck.
Well, I love how it's interchangeable,
Well, let me ask you a
You
question.
can be a Marxist, a communist, a socialist, and a Maoist all at the same time.
Well, here's the question I have for everybody that fucking talks that shit, man. Who the fuck is going to pay for the garbage pickup and your cops and your fucking fire department and your schools and all that other shit?
Well, and I see that point of view. Like, they're saying, oh, yeah, it's good for that. I mean, it's like Jon Stewart said.
Hey, fuck that! If it's good for just that and everything else, and you hate it, then why the fuck do you have it? Period.
Right.
Don't fucking sit there and tell me because it fucking benefits you
right.
that it's okay, but when it benefits someone else, fuck them.
Right.
No, you're either in it all the way or you're not.
Yeah. I mean. But and that's
it's like cherry picking the fucking Bible like they do.
That's right.
Motherfuckers.
That's right. Yeah. I mean.
Sorry, my family's from New York.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking accent's starting to come out.
Oh, God. Oh, I think I got off topic again, but, I think that's what I think, Well, I think we're pretty like-minded here. I don't pick a religion. I don't pick a blue or a red team. I don't like to call myself liberal, even though I probably have. I don't think abortion's right, but I also don't think it's right to tell somebody it's not.
I believe the same thing. There's I said, most of us are middle ground.
Yeah,
most of us are middle ground,
right.
And we do agree on a lot of shit.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are diehard Trump supporters that when we talk, we there are a lot of things we do agree on. Yeah. However, there's a lot of shit that I don't. I can't stand all the fucking hate. I hate it. Well, I can't stand it. It's
and that's
ridiculous.
The thing, going back to the whole Jesus thing, it's just love everyone. And that's what I was saying. It's like all these people that are calling the shots, to get back to my point earlier, all these people that are calling those shots, I don't think they're not religious. They're just saying they're religious. They're acting because they're not acting like Christ. They're not acting like Jesus.
Far from
and
it.
It's almost like they tell us to be like Jesus just so you don't impose a threat on them. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like he's just there for propagation to keep the masses, down so that the leaders can still be the leaders, whatever.
Exactly.
But I say that in jest. But I mean, I do believe a lot of the Eastern philosophy, and I love the Buddha. If you're not going to help anyone, at least don't harm them.
That's right.
And that to me is universal. It's like, and if you find out you're inadvertently harming something, or someone, change it.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry about your self-gain or whatever.
Right.
It's going to be fine. If it helps everyone will be fine.
You know, you brought up a good point a while back. Education.
Yeah.
The problem with this country is very uneducated.
Absolutely.
Very uneducated.
Very.
In many
You can look
forms.
at the numbers.
Yeah.
Anyone out there, look it up.
Right. And the thing is like Christianity is not the oldest form of religion on the planet.
No, absolutely. Not even
Hinduism,
close.
Buddhism are much older. Paganism, much older.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, people just, they fear what they don't know.
Yeah.
Because they've been driven by fear their whole lives. And sometimes you got to step outside that fucking box or do a little more reading and research.
I always say travel more. Just travel and meet people and talk to people.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
But we're becoming so, how can I say it? So
nationalistic.
Yeah, I hate that shit. You might as well be a fucking Nazi.
Well,
that's what the fucking
agree.
Nazis did.
Yeah.
This ain't a fucking This ain't fucking Nazi Germany.
Right.
And it's not going to be.
No, this is supposed to be the country where, no, we're not going to be all nationalized and crazy.
And don't even get me started on them fucking Confederate flags.
Oh, boy.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
Because we're fucking Yankees. We kick their fucking ass.
Right.
I fly a fucking Union fucking battle flag on my fucking house every fucking day.
Right.
I grew up in the North. We kicked their traitorous fucking asses.
Right.
Fuck them.
And the funny thing is, a lot of those were built, erected many years after, the Civil War. Yeah. And it was just kind of like basically like a fuck you to, it was like a Jim Crow era kind of thing. You know, and it is strange that, you don't go into any other countries. Like I don't go to, I went to Germany. I don't see statues of Hitler.
Right.
You know
because
what I mean?
they outlawed that shit.
Right.
It's like if you're going to sit there and like, for example, what really fucking steamed my fucking nuts is sitting there and you see pictures of these fucking so-called pro-patriots with their fucking AR-15 standing at a state house waving Confederate and Nazi flags. Yeah. Why don't you just go piss on the graves at fucking Arlington, you fucking piece of shit? You're not patriotic. You're not patriots. No. If you're fascist or you're on the side of traitors, you're not American.
And I always said, too.
And they're the first ones to say, if you don't like it, why don't you leave? Right. Why don't you get the fuck out? Right. You're not welcome here. Yeah. We kicked your fucking ass.
Yeah, I completely.
You're 0-2 against us, man. 0-2.
Right.
About to be 0-3.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. That whole mentality, is, and even, I was watching.
Sorry,
I was watching this. Yeah, I'm trying to keep. I'm trying to. I was watching this historian talk
a lot
about
of passion for that shit.
But Robert E. Lee, even afterwards, they came to him and asked him if they should erect these monuments for a lot of the generals and whatever. Robert E. Lee himself even said not to.
Yeah,
it's not right.
Yeah.
Like Robert E. Lee even said it's not right. Like, what? I mean, what are you hanging on to?
Right.
Right.
They're traitors.
Yeah.
They killed Americans. They did.
Yeah, well,
Confederate Army killed Americans.
Sure. Union, but sure.
They seceded from the Union, which made them not a part of us anymore.
Right.
And they killed American citizens.
Right.
There is no they were traitors, and they had it coming.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the right side won in that case on history. I mean, but you saw a lot of slavery all around the world around the same time was kind of it wasn't a very
slavery's
popular thing. It's still around.
Slavery is a horrible thing. The racism, the horrible thing. Sexism is a horrible thing. Shit, man. The shit going on with these kids, man, getting kidnapped is a horrible fucking thing. There's a lot of bad shit going on in this country.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna cover up. I was gonna say, slavery.
Yeah.
This is the new slavery right here. I was gonna pull out some cash, but I think I have like a little. I have some Mexican money, but I thought that would have been a little too patriotic or not patriotic or insulting to Mexicans, I guess. But that's that's slavery.
Yeah.
You're keeping us bound to this money. I don't know.
I get it.
It's a very complex situation, and
we've got a lot to work on.
I can see where people say it's historic, because even when I was a kid, I didn't think anything of the Confederate flag. I didn't know any better. I also didn't understand the complexity of why people hated Jews either. Mm-hmm. And we would joke around about naming our band like the Jewish Nazis and stuff like that when we were like, 14, 15 years old. We're dumb idiots.
Yeah.
And now I realize that would have been the worst idea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know.
Because I didn't know any better. And that's how I feel about these people that are like touting the Confederate flag. They just don't know any better.
Right. And it's like, hey, listen, man, we all did stupid shit when we were younger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've all done dumb shit when we were younger.
Yeah.
But, you learn from your mistakes. And this country really needs to learn from a lot of mistakes, especially a lot of mistakes that have been happening lately. Yeah. So,
well, I think that's a good place to leave it.
That sounds great, man. Thank you for having me, man.
Oh no, dude! Thanks for coming down. Like I said, man, because I think about who to ask to come on here, and if anyone's watching this and they want to come on and talk, that'd be great. But I just kind of go through, and I'm looking, I'm like,
yeah.
He'd be a fun guy to talk to.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No, but yeah, Jack from Dead Earth playing a show on
July 18th at the Buzzbin and August 15th at the Avenue Tap House in Lakewood, man.
Okay, well, if that happens, I'll probably be.
If it happens,
yeah,
right.
If it happens, right. Because I don't know. I think as we're talking, I think the mayor's or the governor's giving in some kind of press conference or something like that. But all right. Well, thanks again, Jack.
Thank you, brother.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and all right, everyone,
Peace.
take care.
Metal.